Perfect. So welcome, Andre. Thank you very much for taking the time to join me today on our content mini-series, No Shelf Control. It's a pleasure to have you here. To get us kick-started, it'd be great if you could give our listeners and viewers just a brief introduction to you and your role and the CPG clients that you work on.
Thanks, Oli. My name is Andre Zanetti. I'm part of the global Dentsu team based here in Amsterdam. I've been working across multiple clients within the Dentsu ecosystem, but in the last years, I've been working for a client base here in the Netherlands named Heineken, quite famous.
Yeah.
Quite famous company, right?
Absolutely.
And I've been part of Dentsu for the last 11 years. But before that, I was part of WPP back in my home country in Brazil. But in the last 11 years as part of Dentsu, across multiple labels within Dentsu, like Dentsu Magaribo and iProspect, and now I'm part of the global Cara team within Dentsu. And my team is divided between London and Amsterdam. Myself, I'm based in Amsterdam.
Perfect. Well, what a lovely city to be based out of. You get the same sort of weather we get over here in London, but you get the odd day of sunshine, as we were talking before. So quite an incredible background, working both through the WPP ecosystem and obviously through the Dentsu Aegis network as well. I want to jump straight into it, Andre, and focus really on that CPG client experience that you just mentioned through the Heineken Group, that global remit that you've got, and really just understand what are your main priorities for digital marketing in 2025? What is the team focusing on? Is it specific markets that you're focusing on, specific areas? It'd be good to get a bit of an insight into that.
Actually, more and more, we are structuring a process to be more intentional in the way that we invest budget and how to make the most of it from the outcomes perspective, increasing our measurement capabilities, increasing like the intelligence on the back to make allocation decisions and this kind of things. And it involves like structuring a learning process to understand how much each one of the initiatives is bringing, what value we are getting from each one of the initiatives that we have in place. Another thing, it is about, structuring how we see success, like KPIs, and how different KPIs connect with different jobs to be done and how to prioritize those, and based on their ability to predict the company goals. So ATL contribution to the company goals. And another one, it is and how you combine all the dots, you run allocation process informed by data to be intentional to drive those outcomes. So overall, that's the process. Digital is part of that, but digital actually is a big portion of that. On the other hand, I would not say that it's specifically around digital because, for example, there are initiatives that is based on econometrics that, for example, evaluate the effectiveness across all the touch points, including non-media touch point. But the idea is to think on it holistically and having a data embedded process in that sense.
Absolutely. And you raise a really interesting point, right? Because the CPGs that we talk to, we understand that digital as a channel is such a growing focus for CPG brands. So I suppose my follow-up to that would be, are you seeing major shifts in how CPG brands, i.e. Heineken, are approaching digital marketing? Because digital comes with such unique opportunities around, for example, measurement and optimization.
Yes, so more and more, so data partnerships, like especially for CPG companies that do not have like the direct relationship with consumers, like establishing partnerships, data partnerships through retail, trying to find alternatives to evaluate if the initiatives are generating results, what KPIs we're getting out of the initiatives, trying to get more control in as part of this end-to-end process. And in many cases, companies like FMCG companies that do not have like this direct relationship with consumers, or they are not transacting directly with consumers, lack visibility. So more and more, we are trying to collect the pieces to find what's the unknown. So for example, if you are activating branding initiatives, does it resonate in sales? If you have like direct sales initiatives through retail partners, does it add like how much revenue we're bringing to the space?
Yeah.
And what I see is that more and more it is possible for you to track or to attribute the conversions of your doing if you're partnering with retail players, even if they work like they are reselling their data through other companies, like it, such as Hub and these kind of things. The challenge here is like how to measure these results from the incrementality perspective.
Yeah.
Because what happens is that, and this is the main challenge that I see now. So yes, in many cases we see positive return on ad spend. We are seeing volume that could be attributed somehow to the campaigns based on the existing attributing model. What is not easy to find is how to see if the results that we're getting is incremental, because especially if you are talking about retail space, many consumers would have, well, anyway, so how much incremental our initiatives are bringing, how we can see ROI from the incrementality perspective. So this, for me, is the main challenge in that space.
Yeah, I think makes a lot of sense, Andre, and it's a challenge that we hear across the industry, and you're very right to call that out. One follow-up question to that is, I understand that there are, and I believe you're correct, there's ways in which you can work with retailers to try and achieve that in isolation. How do you solve that for cross-retailer environments? And obviously for Heineken, you're not just selling in one retailer in one market. You have a portfolio of retailers that you are stocked in and perhaps support with your media. How do you see understanding apples to apples comparison, for example?
It's not an easy point to answer because, first, retail is a very fragmented space. And fragmented globally, right?
Yeah.
Each market, they have their own retailers. They have a different logic on the back of it. And when we run like, okay, we are activating a specific retailer in a market, likely not all the retail chains in that particular market are connected to digital infrastructure that allows you to activate.
Yeah.
So you may have there like big chains like Tesco, Carrefour, and so on, but a big portion of the volume comes as well from really small retail chains, so from other POS, and to be honest, so there are many sale points that basically we cannot get insight of today. So I think the industry in this space is crawling because right now we are scratching insights on activities across like some big retail chains across markets. Not all the markets, big and important markets, but if you are working for a company with a global footprint, it's not all markets. The solutions are not the same across different countries. The ability of tracking conversions is not the same across different retails. So basically what happens is that we need to stick with what we can map.
Yeah.
And we need to understand that what we are measuring represents a fraction of the overall potential, and we need to be mindful of that, informed on that. And as long as you are aware of that, all we can do is like to work to identify how we can conquer more space, invading the unknown area. That's the biggest portion of the volume across all the FMCG companies. But more and more, we can only try to push that border, right? So unfortunately, that's the context.
No, it makes a lot of sense, and thank you for that insight. And obviously, you've outlined a gap there, which is potential for perhaps emerging technologies to start to sit in that space. And one of my questions would be, what emerging or if any technologies or platforms are you most excited about that you've heard of that perhaps are trying to fill that void? I think that'd be really interesting to hear your point of view.
Yeah, from my point of view, I'm quite interested like in initiatives of global platforms such as Meta, The Trade Desk. So all these global big techs, they are working on the buying side. They are integrating their solutions with like retail data providers, right? So then you can evaluate, you can not only activate consumers based on their basket of purchase behavior, and so on, but you can also track if your activities on and off site are driving results.
Yeah.
So basically you're driving return on that spend. So there are many places rising in that. So like the Trade Desk, Like as I told you, like the Meta, they have like this collab initiatives with retailers, Amazon. So, but it is a fragmented space, right? So basically, it's up to each advertiser to identify, okay, in that particular market, what are the solutions that help me to play in that space? Perfect. If I consider like my whole volume, what portion this solution is covered?
Yeah.
What's the unknown part of my volume? So, but more and more, I'm really keen to connect with platforms that are integrating their solutions with retail data. Because like if you go specifically to each one of the retailer, you don't have scale. So you need to, so the connection with the media buying and the ability to do that at scale for me is what excites me the most.
Okay, understood. No, thank you for that. And it makes a lot of sense. And in any business, when bringing new technology players on, there is potentially complications and challenges. So are there any anticipated challenges you see with implementing new approaches? We've touched a little bit on sort of global scale. So if you could touch on maybe what you foresee in that area, that would be interesting to hear.
I think the overall is that because we are making decisions based on fragmented client insight solution, we need to have our own interpretation to make the right decisions, right? And each measurement solution, they have their blind spots. And be aware of these blind spots, understanding how you can combine other solutions to get into those blind spots, it is important. And I'll give you some examples. So, for example, as I mentioned to you, when you activate like retail data through like initiatives that you have like in this buying platforms, perfectly, you're tracking your return on that spend, but not necessarily it's from the incremental perspective.
Yep.
When you have like retail data and you're tracking like even, but there are other values that are not added into the mix because these initiatives also adds value to your brand. So you can add like brand equity metrics. You're getting positive results in that. So it's not added into the mix on the return that you're getting of your initiatives. When you look to other solutions such as econometrics, MMMs, this kind of things, you may have results out of your spend, but not necessarily you have the impact that the brand metrics has in the ROI, for example, right? So basically here is a blind spot. Also, not necessarily you have the understanding that your investment, like what return your investment is bringing in the long run, because the ROI, the incremental volume that you're seeing in those econometric studies, they're likely calculated based on the window planned by the study, like a 1 year window, so whatever it may be. So it actually like adds stocks and basically it calculates the potential return in that period of time. So all the studies, they have their blind spots. And that's what we need to be aware. That's what we need to be very clear and understand, okay, what we can get from this study, what we are not getting from this study, where can we at least try to bridge those gaps, trying to find insights from other sources, and how we can orchestrate all the sources, giving the right weight for the insights, for each one of these insight source to make informed decisions. So for me, that's the biggest challenge in that sense.
Yeah.
Collecting all those puzzle pieces to have like a holistic understanding of this picture in a way that makes sense.
I think you talk a lot of sense there, Andre, and I spent a lot of my career in measurement, digital measurement, and a big believer that one solution cannot solve all of your challenges. You have to build a suite, a toolbox of understanding different types of measurement and start to piece together your particular story to help understand your incrementality, your overall effect on your brand equity, as you say. So it's really refreshing to hear that point of view. So thank you for that.
Just a point to add,
please, yeah.
And on top of that, so we have tons of other metrics that we can get like at by the click of the button. So metrics such as clicks, engagement rates, so completion rates. So we have many engagement metrics that you can have on top of everything that not necessarily explain your business results. So in this context, it is important to give the right weight for those measurement solutions, but also to understand what KPI is really a key indication for you and what's only a distraction for you. So you need to understand how to weight the metrics in place.
Makes a lot of sense. And we do a lot of work with our clients trying to structure those different metrics of behavior and bucketing them in different types of or parts of the marketing funnel. For example, an awareness campaign, you're not going to judge an awareness campaign on add to carts and conversion. You might look at average session durations and engagement rating as a key metric for awareness versus a conversion campaign, where you're going to look at those cold, hard revenue figures or add to carts. So yeah, I would completely agree with you. It's all about understanding what did this campaign, what was it set out to achieve, and did we achieve that particular KPI that was relevant for that campaign discipline. I want to turn the conversation a little bit more towards the future and get a bit of an insight into your advice to perhaps other CPG leaders. So first of all, what do you see as the biggest opportunities for CPG brands and digital marketing in 2025 as we sit here in sort of the beginning of the year?
From my point of view, is this structuring like the foundations on measurement. So have a robust platform of measurement like that encompasses like brand tracks, MMM studies. So you need to understand, okay, from the brand perspective, what are the solutions that we have in place that indicates how strong the brand is? What's the potential long term that this level of power can give to the brand? And also from the sales perspective, like having like structuring to have MMMs in place, to have like sales uplift in place, elements that help you to identify how much volume you are getting, and also having everything related to the brand metrics. And from my point of view, I think AI will play like a fundamental role, like weighting all those measurement sources that you have, because as I mentioned, so it's quite hard to identify what's the weight of each one of these dimensions to explain the success of a business, right? So what I see is that if you have the measurement infrastructure right, we have like a very structured set of brand studies, of econometric studies, then I think more and more we will have available AI solutions that will help us to understand what's the weight of each one of those metrics, and based on that, how to make decisions. So, but considering that, okay, we'll have more and more AI solutions that can deliver on that. If you don't have the base, if you don't have the data to inform the model, we'll not be ready to leverage solutions like this that likely are to come.
Yep, that's a really good point. And I couldn't agree more. Obviously, AI is a buzzword, and I think we see a lot of news about perhaps the more just creative side of AI, the generative AI. But I think when focusing on the measurement conversation, the artificial intelligence growth of how the data gaps could perhaps be predicted and filled is a really exciting space. So you make, I think, a really good point around AI being a key driver into the weighting of whether MMM models should be looked at in certain scenarios with more focus than others, or looking at more perhaps the in-session data where applicable, where you're getting it from. So yeah, I couldn't agree more. Again, similar topic, but what advice perhaps would you give to other marketing leaders, CPG marketing leaders like yourselves, preparing for 2025 and the future beyond that?
Yeah, so from my point of view, like continuing the point that I was mentioning, so it is to have like the proper set of measurement rights, because basically we need more and more to have like a database of insights that help us to inform the process, and we need to be intentional with that, understanding like what we're getting on the back of each one of the measurement solutions, but what are their blind spots, so we can think in a complementary way to bridge existing gaps into the mix. So from my point of view, that's the foundation of everything. And of course, exploring what's to come, what's coming in terms of, or can we build, like using like the existing AI solutions models to help us to weight the KPIs to make like informed decisions. But on top of that, I think there is a structure and fundamental, philosophical actually, discussion that the industry needs to take, that is about the the time frame that we're evaluating success. Because if you talk about corporate, like business as a whole, like the way that everything is structured, so basically stockholders are waiting results to be delivered by the end of quarter, right? So I think once you have measurement in place that understand like what's the short, but also what's the long-term impact. So in the ideal world, we should be able to identify how much we are jeopardizing the long term by prioritizing the short term and the other way around, right? Because the long term, so if you're prioritizing the short term and basically you're jeopardizing your brand in the long term, it potentially will have implications for your sustainability. On the other hand, if you're prioritizing the long term and basically impacting your short term, the long term is affected by multiple elements beyond your control. So, for example, interest rates, competitive landscape, shifting consumer trends, behavior, and this kind of things. So you need to have like a bigger price to capture in the long run to justify the long-term investment in detriment of the short term.
Yep.
But there is a fair equation for you to balance your decision. So basically, am I capturing a high price enough to focus on the uncertainty on the long run? Or am I jeopardizing the long term because I'm purely focused on the short term, aware that all the companies there are pressured to deliver results by the end of quarter? So from my point of view, having clarity about that, understand the implications on your decisions based on this measurement infrastructure, even if you don't have all the answers, if you have blind spots, but at least have a perspective about it, that and be intentional, it's crucial for brand managers to lead in that space.
The way in which you've approached that, of having that plan and understanding what you're going to use and what the potential downfalls are, of focusing on one to everything the other, is really good advice. So thanks for that, Andre. And just to wrap up for us, we always ask this question at the end, but what are your predictions for the CPG space, retail media, for 2025 and perhaps beyond that we're going to see come to fruition in the next year?
I think more and more you see like retail media solutions. So the retail chains, the big players in that space will become media vendors, will become publishers. They will try to monetize other areas of their business, especially because their retail business has such a tight margins, right? So any other business revenues they can get is better for them. And basically this is an avenue that most of them, they can go. And I think this will open up great opportunities for the FMCG companies, right? So, and also a revenue stream for those retail business, right? So my prediction is that more and more we'll see players such as like Amazon's of this world folk becoming more a marketplace than basically a retail chain. We'll see retail players becoming publishers, becoming media vendors to increase their revenue stream, but like having separate lines of business, and basically the data will be like a big portion of their business. I will see those big techs trying to connect these emerging solutions, structuring their platforms like a one-stop shop. So marketplace, right? So you can buy retail data, you can buy publisher data, everything in the same buying platform. More and more we'll see like this. We will see the wall gardens increasing the size of their walls as well.
That's interesting. Okay. So going the other way.
We will see, no, exactly. So we will see discussions around how harmful it is for society, what's the dangers as human beings of having like our data exposed, and what will be like our protection levels as society, as human beings. So I see that this kind of discussions will get more and more importance, right? And we'll see AI playing a fundamental role in the measurement ecosystem moving forward, especially in the points that if you have like the infrastructure right, so you have like the measurement side right, so we have, okay, from the brand perspective, what we are tracking, from the sales perspective, what we are tracking. Then on top of that, you are layering all those metrics, all those research that you have at your disposal with an AI solution, attributing the proper weight for each one of them and understanding across everything how you should weight their elements to make an informed decision, I think that more and more solutions like this will rise. So in a summary, this is my prediction from the future.
I think very strong predictions. I like the way you've approached the walled garden conversation. Some people we talk to have a hope that the walled gardens will drop their walls, but I think you might be right in the sense that the walls will grow higher. But super insightful on the topics of measurement and perhaps the opportunity for CPGs. So, Andre, I just want to thank you for your time and your insights. It's been a truly inspiring conversation, and definitely lots of value from our side. And I hope that people that come across this content find it inspiring too. So, thank you very much for your time, and hopefully, we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you very much for having me. Great talking to you. Have a great weekend.